My next patron question is from Andrew, who wants to know why a show from a beloved figure did not quite take off in its original airing. Although Jim Henson is known for making some of the most ambitious and beloved TV shows and movies in family entertainment, one of his last ever projects, The Jim Henson Hour, would prove to be one of his most disastrous in terms of critical reception and audience viewership. Despite so much ambition and passion put into the show by Henson and his creative team, audiences just did not tune into it when it premiered, and due to the rights of the characters and specials featured on the show being split between different companies, the show can't legally be viewed on a streaming service. Some believe the show was simply a huge mess that was doomed from the start, including longtime Muppets writer Jerry Jewell. However, some do think that despite its flaws, the show was very ahead of its time, and under certain circumstances, it might have done much better than it ended up doing. Where do you stand on this divisive project? Could the Jim Henson Hour have been a success? For those unfamiliar with this show, it was basically Jim Henson's attempt to do something akin to the show Walt Disney used to host for ABC. Well, that was the original plan anyway. This is one of those projects that dealt with a lot of executive notes, which begs the question of why NBC would pick up the show if they wanted Henson to change it from his original intention. The show premiered on Friday night, where it had abysmal ratings, and was then moved to Sunday night, where it did even worse. Thus, it had a very short run on NBC. I admittedly have only watched one episode of the Jim Henson Hour, but that was enough to indicate to me why the show struggled to find viewership. The initial plan was to do a rotating format with a variety of specials. Instead, due to set notes, most episodes consisted of two separate shows. First, there was a Muppet sketch show, and then the second half hour would feature a whole story, like an installment of Jim Henson's earlier series, The Storyteller, or a new piece. A major problem is that first half of the show. Muppet Television gives us a bunch of quick sketches that feel like rejected material from The Muppet Show. It's not nearly as witty as viewers had come to expect from The Muppets, and even with a theme, they felt disjointed. So by the time it got into the second half, I imagine most potential viewers had tapped out. While there were eventually hour-long specials like Dog City, the ratings had already slid heavily at that point. One episode that was a behind-the-scenes look at the Muppet studio did not even air on NBC, when it really should have been one of the first ones shown. So what are some ways that the Jim Henson Hour could have been successful? For starters, it should have aired on a different time slot. Instead of prime time, I think it would have been fitting on Saturday morning. The style and writing of the show just did not seem to have the general appeal of something like The Muppet Show or Dinosaurs, and seemed catered towards a younger viewership. I'm not saying that was Henson's intention, as he often strived to make sure his productions appealed to everyone, but the execution just felt different and less sophisticated than the Muppets were known for. It probably also did not help that in its Friday time slot, it was up against ABC's already popular family sitcom block TGIF, specifically Perfect Strangers and Full House. The other issue is I don't think it should have even aired on network television. I think the Jim Henson Hour would have been more fitting on cable, and feels like it would be more at home on the Disney Channel or HBO or even Nickelodeon, which the series did eventually air on. Those channels also might have given Henson a lot more freedom to make the show he initially wanted. However, because of those requested changes, the Jim Henson Hour looked like it did not seem to know what it wanted to be. Despite its bad ratings and short run, the show was not a complete failure. It would receive 6 Primetime Emmy nominations, including 2 in the Outstanding Children's Program category. Henson would even win an Emmy for Outstanding Directing in a variety or music program for the Dog City episode. 3 years later, Dog City was turned into an animated series which ran for 3 seasons on Fox Kids. Now, like Andrew mentioned, the rights are all over the place, which makes the likelihood of a DVD or streaming release unlikely, although the possibility of those individual segments being released on their own is still possible. Disney owns the Muppet segments, so they could put those segments on Disney+. In Canada, they've even aired on television under the name The Jim Henson Show. Meanwhile, some of the other segments, which are under the ownership of the Jim Henson Company, have gotten DVD releases. Most of the episodes are on YouTube, though, if you're interested. But as you can see, this was a show that was affected by a number of factors, primarily behind-the-scenes troubles and its treatment by the network. We all know about projects where all the pieces come together to create a success. The Jim Henson Hour had most of the pieces fall into the wrong place, but it was nonetheless a noble effort by everyone involved. Thank you for your question, Andrew.